Hello and welcome to CyberByteFM, your ultimate source for cybersecurity, privacy, compliance, AI, and threat intelligence. Get expert insights, breaking news, and practical tips to stay one byte ahead in the digital world. Unlock the code to safer systems decode the threats shaping tomorrow. Hit subscribe and join the frequency.
Right.
So imagine walking into a board meeting asking for, say, a 20% budget increase because your firewalls blocked 1 million more threats this quarter.
They will not care.
Exactly. The chief financial officer looks across the table and asks, did that actually reduce our risk of a material breach? Or are we just paying a premium to watch automated pings bounce off the perimeter?
And if you cannot answer that with defensible metrics, you have lost the room.
You have completely lost the room. I mean, a vendor renewal list or a product roadmap should never be the starting point for a serious cybersecurity budget.
Correct.
Yet, too many leaders treat budget planning as just a technical procurement exercise rather than an enterprise risk management instrument. So today, we are breaking down how to fund what actually matters in this deep dive.
We need to equip you to build a defensible baseline.
Right, and present undeniable business value to the board. Because we really must begin by confronting the strategic reality of the modern boardroom.
The credibility gap.
Yes, the single biggest threat facing technology and security leaders today is a credibility gap. Executive leadership expects you to justify every major expenditure with hard evidence.
Evidence of risk reduction, business resilience, or regulatory necessity.
You are expected to convert technical vulnerabilities into executive decisions about operational continuity and acceptable residual risk. Residual risk is the remaining exposure after you have implemented your security controls.
Yeah.
If you approach budget season focusing on alert volumes or the latest vendor modules, you are speaking the wrong language entirely.
And that credibility gap is exactly why we are seeing a massive strategic shift, one that aligns directly with the NIST CSF 2.0 framework. The National Institute of Standards and Technology's framework for managing cybersecurity risk explicitly positions the governance function at the center of organizational security strategy.
It essentially operates as the steering wheel for the entire enterprise.
It does. The framework dictates that organizations must prioritize expenditures and actions based on stakeholder expectations, mission needs, established risk appetite, and available resources.
Which completely invalidates the old model, buying tools based on arbitrary technology trends. I mean, the era of buy it because it is best in class is just over.
Correct.
You cannot just ask for more money for tools. It is exactly like buying high-end components without knowing if you are building a race car for speed or a tank for armor.
You need a structured portfolio approach.
Right. A mature budgeting model requires analyzing the gaps between your current operational profile and your target state, and then ruthlessly closing the most consequential gaps first.
And to execute this properly, you must establish a rigorous 5-step baseline before a single dollar of net new funding is requested.
Yeah, before you even look at a spreadsheet. So step one is establishing the business context.
Right.
Because, you cannot protect the enterprise if you do not know how it makes money. You must document your critical business services, regulated data flows, key third-party integrations, and direct revenue dependencies.
Which involves interviewing business unit leaders, not just IT directors.
Exactly. Without this context, security budget discussions become generic, theoretical, and easily deprioritized by the CFO. So once you know the revenue engines, the next logical hurdle is visibility.
Which brings us to step 2, inventorying your assets and dependencies.
Right.
The identify function of the NIST framework heavily emphasizes this requirement. It establishes that an organization cannot reliably estimate control, monitoring, or recovery needs without a realistic, continuous inventory.
Total visibility is non-negotiable.
Total visibility. Visibility failure leads directly to budget waste because you cannot secure, monitor, or allocate funds for assets you do not know exist.
And this is where we have to account for SaaS. SaaS stands for Software as a Service, representing cloud-hosted third-party applications that bypass traditional perimeter security.
And they bloat your decentralized spend.
Yeah, shadow IT is no longer just an administrative annoyance. It is unquantified financial liability.
Yeah.
If marketing is running a decentralized cloud instance with customer data, your budget baseline is already compromised.
Precisely. To find those hidden assets, you have to go beyond network scanners.
Right.
You need to ingest telemetry from identity providers, analyze API gateway traffic, and even audit expense reports to find where business units are bypassing procurement.
Just to spin up unauthorized infrastructure. So, okay, once you have the context and the inventory, step 3 is quantifying your material risk scenarios.
Correct.
You have to map your budget to plausible business consequences. And how do you actually do this? You use established methodologies to calculate expected loss.
Such as tabletop scenarios.
Yeah, you sit down and run a tabletop scenario. If a ransomware event takes down our primary logistics application, well, what is the hourly cost of downtime?
What are the SLA penalties?
What are the incident response retainers? You have to quantify the scenario in dollars. And that financial calculation leads right into step 4, baselining your current spend.
Eliminating trapped capital, overlapping tooling, and shelfware.
Yes, shelfware. Shelfware refers to the security products you pay annual licensing fees for, but have never fully deployed to actively mitigate threats.
And you do not find shelfware by looking at the procurement list?
No, you find it by looking at utilization metrics.
That is the critical mechanism for step 4. If a security module has not pulled your Active Directory in 60 days, or if less than 10% of your endpoints have an agent actively communicating with the console, you are paying for a ghost.
You cut that contract immediately.
You will often find substantial usable budget simply by eliminating this trap spend.
Which clears the path for the final phase of the baseline. Step 5, creating the action plan. This involves assigning funded actions, holding accountable owners to strict timelines, setting sequence milestones, and defining measurable success.
Right.
I mean, look at your current baseline process. Are you actively utilizing a zero-based review discipline? Or are you just blindly paying the cyber subscription fee every year?
A zero-based review discipline means starting from scratch every budget cycle, where every single expense must be explicitly justified by current operational risk.
Regardless of prior spending. So once that baseline is locked in, we move to the most critical strategic decision you will make, determining how the budget pie should actually be sliced across different security domains.
We have the total number, but where does it go?
Exactly.
While exact allocation will always depend on your specific organizational context, illustrative planning bands for a mature enterprise provide a clear benchmark.
Okay, what are the bands?
Generally, you should dedicate 30 to 40% of the budget to proactive defense and prevention.
Which reduces the sheer likelihood of a compromise.
Correct. Another 20 to 30% should go to monitoring, detection, and response to improve visibility and incident containment speed.
Right.
15 to 20% is typically required for governance, risk, and compliance to sustain policy enforcement and board reporting.
Okay, so I am looking at the remaining numbers, and this is where we have a massive problem. That leaves roughly 5 to 15% allocated to recovery and resilience.
Yes.
I mean, in a multi-million-dollar budget, that feels dangerously low. If a ransomware-driven outage is our biggest existential threat, why is that percentage not significantly higher?
It sounds low on paper, but remember, this allocation is specifically for dedicated recovery engineering, not preventative tooling.
Oh, right.
If your backups are properly immutable, your restoration scripts are highly automated, and your recovery environments are logically isolated, a highly focused 5 to 15% allocation goes a very long way in minimizing outage duration.
So it is efficient.
The problem is not that the optimal percentage is too low. The problem is that most enterprises allocate absolutely nothing to this domain.
They over-index entirely on preventative tools and leave the organization completely exposed on the back end.
Correct.
I mean, organizations will endlessly fund things like IAM and PAM. IAM is identity and access management that controls general user permissions, and PAM is privileged access management that locks down administrative rights.
And they will build every next-generation firewall on the market.
But they neglect the recovery side entirely.
Consider the standard visibility failure that leads to this exact type of catastrophic budget misallocation.
Okay.
An organization spends heavily on endpoint protection, email filtering, and network control layers. However, they allocate $0 to continuous asset discovery, and they never fund full-scale restoration testing.
So the perimeter appears highly secure to the board.
But internally, they are carrying an unacceptable level of cyber resilience risk.
Because when a targeted ransomware event inevitably bypasses those initial controls, the damage is exponential.
Because they lacked funded recovery engineering, they do not have validated, clean backup configurations.
They cannot quickly rebuild domain controllers. What should have been a containable technical incident is immediately transformed into severe, prolonged operational downtime, which is a completely preventable operational disaster, driven entirely by a flawed, unbalanced budget allocation.
Exactly.
So the urgent question becomes, if you need to fund that neglected recovery segment, but you cannot ask the board for net new dollars, how do you pay for it?
You have to cannibalize your own operations stack.
You must ruthlessly optimize your existing environment. And optimization does not mean indiscriminate cost-cutting. It means actively increasing the amount of measurable risk reduction per dollar spent while keeping residual risks strictly inside approved tolerances.
This requires applying FinOps to your cyber operations.
Right. FinOps is a financial management practice that promotes shared accountability for cloud and operational computing costs to maximize the risk reduction of every dollar.
And you must specifically target your SIME.
Yes, your SIME. SIME stands for Security Information and Event Management, which is the platform that aggregates and analyzes real-time alerts across your entire infrastructure.
Treating your SIME data lake like a landfill where you dump every single system log is financial negligence.
Total negligence.
Yeah.
I mean, these ingestion costs will grow infinitely faster than your risk reduction if your ingestion policies are not strictly tied to critical use cases.
This is where a mature tool rationalization process becomes essential.
Right.
You have to evaluate duplicate capabilities across your entire stack, particularly looking at endpoint protection, posture management, and alerting workflows.
And furthermore, managed services like an MSSP or MDR. MSSP and MDR are external providers that oversee your general security processes or handle advanced threat hunting and response.
And they should only be funded where they demonstrably reduce internal toil or improve time to detect.
These services must be leveraged for speed and efficiency without ever obscuring internal accountability for the risk. So, look at your log retention policies right now.
Blanket collection for all data sources is burning capital.
Are you paying massive cloud storage fees to store blank pages? Because if you are ingesting terabytes of firewall, denies that your team never alerts on, never investigates, and never uses for threat hunting, you are wasting money.
Tiered log retention, separated strictly by legal, forensic, and operational need, is mandatory.
You have to treat your data lake like a highly curated forensic library. Only pay to store the data that actually solves a crime or meets a regulatory mandate.
You must inventory every significant tool by its primary use case, its executive owner, its integration dependencies, and its measurable value.
Right. Which line items in your budget support the exact same primary risk scenario? Which tools are being used solely for the convenience of generating a weekly PDF report?
Which modules are fully licensed but not actively operationalized?
You must definitively answer these questions before any contract renewal decision is finalized.
Right.
So once that internal rigorous optimization is complete, you reach the final and really the most critical step, translating this structured portfolio into a language the board actually understands.
The fundamental requirement here is distinguishing between KPIs and KRAIs.
Right. A KPI is a key performance indicator that measures your team's operational execution, whereas a KRI is a key risk indicator that measures the organization's actual business exposure.
Let the data be very clear. Boards do not want to see your execution metrics. They need to see your exposure metrics.
They do not benefit from high-volume operational statistics.
Presenting a slide with raw vulnerability counts, the millions of blocked emails or firewall event totals creates executive confusion because those numbers completely lack business consequence.
I mean, blocking 10 million automated scanning attempts does not mean the organization is safer. It just means the firewall is plugged in.
Instead, you must present metrics such as the percentage of critical business services with successful validated restoration tests within the last 90 days.
Or the number of material business risks currently operating above the board-approved risk appetite.
These figures successfully translate cybersecurity terminology into the general risk management language that executives use to govern the broader enterprise.
So if you are building a deck for the board right now, drop the technical jargon. I mean it. Here are 3 strategic bullets you can copy and paste directly into your presentation framework.
Bullet 1.
Tie every single budget request to a material business risk scenario. This could be a specific third-party compromise or a ransomware-driven manufacturing outage, rather than providing feature comparisons across competing vendors.
The board does not care if vendor A has a better dashboard than vendor B.
No, they care if vendor A reduces the financial impact of a supply chain breach.
Bullet 2.
Frame your security portfolio using a hybrid business model. Position your core resilience and recovery capabilities as catastrophic risk insurance. Position your automation, AI integration, and vendor consolidation initiatives as ROI-driven value creation.
This shows the CFO that you understand both risk mitigation and operational efficiency.
Exactly. And bullet 3, report your progress using business-aligned metrics. Show them expected loss exposure trends over time.
Show them your incident containment speed in relation to business downtime limits.
When you synthesize those principles, a proper board-ready statement sounds exactly like this.
The organization has currently spent 48% of the annual security budget and committed 67%.
Right.
Coverage of our critical cloud workloads has improved from partial to near-complete monitoring.
But, however, automated restoration testing for two of our primary revenue-generating applications remains behind schedule, which leaves us carrying an elevated downtime risk into the next fiscal quarter. That is how you command a boardroom. You combine spend tracking, operational delivery, and residual risk into a single, highly actionable narrative.
It gives the board of directors a clear, factual basis for challenge, support, or financial reprioritization.
Because it treats security as a fundamental business operation. So the ultimate so what here is that the future of cyber budgeting requires continuous, zero-based review discipline.
A budget is not a static document that you file away after Q1.
Right. It is a highly dynamic governance tool. You must ruthlessly identify overlapping tool sets, eliminate trapped capital, and continuously map your strategic investments to your target profiles and your accepted residual risk.
You must reassess this portfolio quarterly.
And be prepared to adjust instantly when the threat landscape, business priorities, or the operating environment changes. So I will leave you with one final urgent scenario to evaluate the maturity of your current posture.
Right.
Think about your current security stack. If your organization's revenue dropped by 20% tomorrow morning, and the board forced you to immediately cut your security budget to match, would you know exactly which tools are merely reporting conveniences and which ones are actively keeping your company's name out of the headlines?
If you do not know the answer, you have work to do.
You absolutely have work to do before your next renewal cycle. Hit subscribe on YouTube at CyberByteFM and join the frequency for weekly intel. That is your briefing. Stay secure.